What's up, everybody? This is the Luxury Health Podcast, and we have a special guest in the building, Miss SUSAN Gulley.
Yes.
What's going on? How's it going?
I'm doing fantastic. I feel good. I feel really good.
Awesome. So I gotta say, I reached out to SUSAN. This may have been about 2 weeks ago, trying to see if she can come on the podcast and talk about mental health and crisis therapy and trauma therapy, because I wanted to definitely put this out in the community, because I know how important it is, especially nowadays, to talk about it, not just in all communities, but especially the Black community. So I wanted to have her on the show. And immediately when I reached out to her, I think it was that same night, she responded very excited, very passionate about saying, yes, I definitely want to come on the show, definitely talk about, what I know, what I can bring to the table. So very excited to have you here today.
Thank you.
With that being said, just tell me a little bit about how you got into doing this type of work.
Absolutely. I'm excited and glad to be here. I think this is a very, very important topic that's getting a little bit more traction, but not enough. When I resided in California before I moved into Atlanta. I had found myself homeless for a year and a half. After being homeless, I ended up working with victims of sexual assault, sexual abuse for 5 years, doing volunteer work. And I thought it was very necessary to go back to school and pursue a career in the counseling field. And so that was a pivotal moment for me. Working with victims of sexual abuse and sexual assault was amazing. It brought me meaning. It brought me purpose. It showed me that I could just do it seamlessly. And that started my path.
Awesome. So let's just go ahead and get into it. So what exactly is crisis? Because I think when a lot of us think about crisis or trauma, we think about the overt things. So like war, physical assault, sexual assault. So what exactly is crisis? And is it always as overt as we think? Or can it be subtle things that happen throughout our lives that we don't think about that could be a crisis? So like living in a drug-infested neighborhood or living in a neighborhood where you hear gunshots, every night. Could that be crisis and trauma as well?
That's a really, really good question. It just depends on the person. Currently working at the Veterans Crisis Line. That crisis could be different things for different people. So there's no easy way to define a crisis. It just depends on the person. I think more importantly, it's something that's acute that happens over a period of time. Where people may have experienced a problem after a problem after a problem after another problem, or unfortunate situation that may happen, such as a divorce, a breakup of a relationship. A lot of people find themselves after a breakup of a relationship or a marriage wanting to end their lives. I mean, I find that that's a lot of our calls. If someone becomes homeless, loses a job, and they lose that stability in their life, something that was comfort, that put them in a comfort zone, and they lose that comfort, that they can find themselves in a crisis. War, obviously, like you said, those are the like you said, the main things. But the little things, I feel, in my mind, is what causes the crisis over time. I think people, they may experience something in childhood, whether it be physical trauma, sexual trauma, or any type of trauma they may experience in childhood, and it may go undealt with. And then they go into teenage years and they might have some issues there, whatever that might look like. And then they go in adulthood, and then none of these issues are addressed. And then when they get in adulthood and they start to experience another trauma or unfortunate situation or breakup, what we tend to do oftentimes when we experience something bad is then we look at all the things that we ever been through in our past. And then life becomes a crisis, because now it's like things are never going to get right. Things are never going to get better. This is my life. And so they may take a bad situation and then equate it with a bad life. And if they're having a bad circumstance right then and there, they put all that together, and then we come up with a crisis.
Wow. So let's stay on that topic. So what are some of the ways that you've seen, unhealthy ways that you've seen people deal with crisis or deal with trauma and not, instead of just coming out speaking to someone and telling someone, yeah, I'm dealing with this crisis, I'm dealing with this trauma, what are some of the unhealthy ways that you've seen people deal with trauma?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And one of the ways that they deal with it is through substance abuse, alcohol or drugs, because it's a way to self-medicate. People oftentimes think, oh, you know what, if I can just feel better for the moment, get that instant gratification and get that reprieve, that release at that moment, then I would be able to feel better. But what they don't realize is they develop a habit and a pattern and an addiction. So, you've heard that saying, you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? And so then people use sex. People will use relationships. Some people, if they find themselves in a psychiatrist's office, which it doesn't happen until there's serious to that at the end of wanting to take their life, they may take medication. Some people get medication off the street. But people are looking for an immediate fix. They want that immediate gratification to relieve them of the pain that they're feeling. And so, but what they don't realize is it doesn't bring about lasting change. It just brings you an immediate fix. And that's the problem. So now you have the addiction along with that same problem, along with the plethora of problems that you had, and then the problems that addiction brings. So I find that's what most people use. And some people will use a relationship to try to heal. And when that relationship goes awry and they put their whole identity in that relationship and it doesn't work, then they're ready to end their lives.
Wow. So have you seen any trends regarding demographics or gender or even age when it comes to knowing how to deal with crisis or the amount of crisis and trauma that people go through?
I feel, and I do, but you know what? To be honest with you, I've worked with teens. I've worked with, right now I work with a wide range of races. I do find that white men contact our line and ask for help a lot more than anyone. We do have black men calling, but not as much as I would like to see. When they do call, it's, hey, I was just calling it just, and they kind of talk around the subject until they feel comfortable to bring it up. They usually talk about something else. And then eventually, if they feel comfortable, they'll bring it up. But I find that they have a hard time asking for help more so than anybody. In terms of women, they do. In terms of teens, absolutely. Teens more so, it's substance, it's relationships. That I find is a crisis for them. Also for women, relationships. I find for a lot of them, believe it or not, when we get calls to the crisis line, which we get a lot of, is dealing with either relationship, finances, or something like that, where whatever coping mechanism they used up until that point is no longer working, and there's now consequences. But typically it's white men that reach out more to me, based on the line that I'm at, than any demographic. Not many black men reach out. White women do, black women do, and teens.
So how long did you say you've been working in crisis therapy?
I've been doing crisis work since 2005.
Okay, so that's right around the time that social media became popular, iPhones, smartphones became popular. We came to that era of instant need, instant gratification. So how much of a role, because I think, social media could play a part in a lot of the crisis trends that have gone up in recent years, the comparison era that we're in, where we always have to compare ourselves to the next person, compare our likes and followers to the next person, compare our lifestyle. Everyone wants to post pretty pictures, and I love social media. I post on social media myself, and I think it's important in the world that we live in today to have social media. But I want you to speak about, if you can, the effects of that instant gratification era that we live in now, and that comparison era, and how that has had an impact on crisis and trauma within all demographics, like you said, teens, middle-aged adults, people in their professional careers, all different demographics. How has that had an effect on all different people?
That's a really, really good question, because oftentimes we're big on image And this is what social media provides, right? Like you said, the best picture, the best lifestyle, the best house, in addition to reality shows that are not necessarily reality. And the same thing with social media, because we're going to present our best selves. Like I tell clients, they're like, oh, I'm always seeing people that are happy on social media. I said, but people are not going to be on social media crying. You're not going to see them showing their true feelings. Yeah. And so what you're getting us is not the full picture. So that might be a part of their life, but it's not all of it. Mm-hmm. And we know from, I have friends that do social media that people look at that and they go, oh man, they live in life and I don't have that life. I don't look like that. And so it's important, as I find that a lot of people don't have a self-identity. They don't have self-esteem. And so they look for the external factors to bring them strength instead of getting strength from internal. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we look for the beautiful woman, the beautiful man, money, and we will look at what people drive, where they live, where they work, instead of looking at people's hearts, their character, and the things that really matter. So a lot of people don't have internal strength. They don't know who they are. And so one of the things I tell clients, if they tell me, oh, I'm ready to commit suicide, okay, this is what some of the let's just get to the ground level of what's going on. You need to learn and find out who you are as a person and build a healthy self-esteem that does not include the external factors, which is what social media presents. I think social media is good where it can link you to help, but like you said, that instant fix, it just doesn't happen. Therapy is a process because you have to become, and we don't become overnight. And so it's important that, and I tell people all the time, you're not going to get an immediate fix with therapy, but you will get lasting change. Mm-hmm. It will help you to develop character. It will help you to develop communication skills. It will help you to learn who you are as a person. So when you see these people on social media and say, oh man, that's great, they're living great. But you know, without a shadow of doubt, they're not living, nobody's living no perfect 100% life all the time. And so this is what I try to instill with them, because we've made this stuff that's on social media is not 100% reality. So some people feel like if I don't have that, then I'm nothing. Well, that's not true. Who you are as a person is very important. What you believe in, your values, your interests is more important than just the external stuff. And so that is a lot of the things that I try to teach them with Crisis, because everybody is just so concerned with the internal that nobody has built themselves up internally.
I can agree with that. So let's stay on the social media topic and talking about people looking for that external fix. And like in my circle of friends, we talk to each other all the time, every day. We don't necessarily always talk about mental health or what the other person may be going through. So what are some of those things, if everybody is posting on social media, these happy pictures, these pictures of this exciting lifestyle, how can a person really understand if another person is going through trauma?
Right. That's a really, really good question. One of the things that Facebook has, Instagram doesn't have it, and Snapchat obviously because it goes, the information goes away quickly, is you can report when somebody is suicidal. So they have information where you can report to Facebook. Instagram doesn't have that feature yet. And so if you see someone saying, you know what, life sucks, I'm depressed, or anything where somebody is just seeming out of ordinary, you want to instant message them immediately and say, hey, what's going on? If you got their phone number, reach out to them. How are you doing? I'm not doing so well. Okay, well, you're not doing so well. Because a lot of people will isolate. When they get depressed, they will, maybe if they're used to, looking really nice and putting it really put together, they may not be so put together. They may seem out of sorts. They may seem to isolate, withdraw, not be as functional as they normally are. But then some people, they might continue to put that facade on until they eventually just implode or explode, where they get to that point where they're just ready to take their life. And some people, believe it or not, when they're ready to commit suicide, they may actually have a peace about themselves. So they might seem like really depressed initially, and then you see this peace come over them. Wow. When nothing has changed in their reality, and that's something to be concerned about, because that means they've already made the decision to take their life. But if you find somebody is really depressed and you're really worried about them, ask them. Hi, are you depressed, dude? What's going on with you? Are you okay? Because they may tell you. A lot of times we have surface relationships. Mm-hmm. it's embarrassing to come to somebody if we've been presenting ourselves on social media as having this amazing lifestyle, is doing great. So if we're struggling, who are we gonna tell? Because that's embarrassing. Right? So we keep it up this facade that things are really good when they're really, really not good. Yeah. And so if you're really close with that person, you're not going to know unless you're really, really close with them and they're able to express the feelings to you. So I tell people it's important to be real with people so that you will be able to be real and not feel embarrassed if you need help, because then people can help you. I've had one gentleman, he literally hung himself. His roommate found him. Jeez. And he was a teacher, a science teacher, at a school here in Atlanta, very well put together. You would never even suspect it. He hung himself. His roommate found him, which was very traumatizing for the roommate. And nobody knew. But I'm like, why didn't you tell anybody? Because if I keep it surface with you, you're going to keep it surface with me. Why would I go vulnerable with you and express my feelings to you if you're not expressing your feelings to me? Yeah. So a lot of us have these ingenuine relationships that are not built on substance and authenticity and genuineness, right? So where we can really come and tell somebody how we're feeling. And so it's important that they have somewhere that they can go to. One of the things I suggest if they feel like they're not comfortable, but you feel like somebody's off, is have them call the crisis line, 1-800-273-8255, and talk to somebody. If you're a veteran, press 1. Because sometimes they're able to express themselves in a way that a lot of people are not able to express themselves to their wives. I can't tell you how many people cannot talk to their wives because they want to appear strong, and so they talk to us and break down to us. I had a gentleman, a veteran, a combat veteran, that it took him to go through 4 doors in his house and his wife to go walk the dog for him to break down crying to me to tell me what's really going on. Wow. And so it's important that if they're not going to be real with you and you find somebody that they're depressed or they will be real with you, ask them, are you currently having thoughts of suicide? Okay, if you are, and when I say thoughts, no plan or intent, just thoughts, just having ideation. I don't want to be here anymore. Okay, well, that's a concern. You don't want to be here anymore. Have you thought of a plan on how you can take your life? Well, I got a gun or whatever. Oh, okay. Do you have a gun at home? Yes, I do. Well, you know what? Maybe why don't I keep the gun for you? Let me keep the gun. That way you don't have the means right there, okay, or whatever. You want to pry and ask questions. Sometimes we don't want to do that because we're so busy with our own lives. But if we see somebody depressed, we need to reach out and to ask them, hey, what's going on with you? And then with some people, you don't know. So social media do have platforms where people will come and some people will tell you how they're feeling. And then people say, oh, I'm going to pray for you, and give them a prayer emoji. Or, I'm so sad for you. I'm going to be praying. But reach out to that person. If you don't have their number, do the inbox or contact them directly and show your concern,
Yeah, definitely. So I have a 3-month-old son. So not old enough to start talking. You mentioned a lot just then about talking to your friends, having those genuine conversations about just what's going on in life. How's life going? How's the job going? How's school going? Anything you want to talk to us about, or do you feel depressed at times? Just having genuine conversations. So I want to go to, I mentioned I have a 3-month-old son. He's not old enough to talk yet. But for parents who have younger kids,
absolutely,
is it too early to start those conversations at any point, or when do you recommend, parents having that conversation with their kids?
That's a really good question, because believe it or not, we have parents that call with their little young kids to our crisis line, and they're ready to commit suicide through bullying or whatever they may go through at school, or just, once again, social media. I don't look like what the girls or the guys are doing on social media. I think it's important to be a role model. I think, like I tell some veterans that are suicidal, walk out that pain so your child can see it. A lot of times we want to shield what we're going through from our children, but they need to see you walk out pain. They need to see you be real, because where else are they going to learn it? In the streets? So if you as a father have a 3-month-old and you're sad and you're depressed, he needs to see how you work out that sadness or depressed. If you show him that life is just always perfect and you're just supposed to go with it, no, show him how to deal with a tough day. A lot of times, I know me growing up, we didn't have that platform to have a voice. The kids should have a voice. If they come and tell you something, don't play it down. They're feeling a certain way. So there should be an open platform in that home because it starts there first. There should also be an environment of high esteem, not expecting too much from your children. Kids a lot of times don't feel good enough. So they need to be esteemed, and then meeting them right where they at. If they want to be a clown, you know what? Send them to clown school. Let them become the best clown that they can be. You may not want your child to be a clown, but guess what? That's what they want to do, and support them in that. But I think once again, having that genuine, authentic environment where there can be communication. A lot of times kids are saying, well, they shut me off. They're not taking my depression seriously. Kids get depressed too.
Oh, yeah.
They get, there's absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so if they don't feel like they look, I have a niece that's dealing with some self-esteem issues and she's 4 years old, and so I'm like, already? But social media. Right? So being able to create a platform where your son can see role models that look like him is important. And that's for anybody. But I think once again, having that authentic conversation, like I've told people, you're ready to kill yourself, you got 3 kids. You kill yourself, family history of suicide, it plays a key role in how kids develop resilience and tolerance to life. If dad commits suicide, who do I look up to? So if I have a bad time, you know what? I'm going to do what dad did. I'm going to take my life too. So a lot of times when we evaluate and we're doing assessments with our clients, I'm asking, what's your family history of suicide? Anybody in your family ever committed suicide? Because that's a big problem that we need to deal with. And so it's creating that genuine environment with him, allowing your son to be himself. If he has an issue, address it. If he's being bullied, don't just say, okay, well, if somebody hits you, hit him back. I mean, that sounds great and everything, but how do he deal with the mental part of that? Let's sit down and have a conversation. How does this impact you to bullying? And if it's just really bad in the schools, you got to address it with the school and they're not addressing it, you may need to transfer that child into another school. They need to feel supported and validated, which is so important.
Yeah. And bullying is definitely a topic I may have to bring you back on the show to talk about, because I feel like we can talk an entire segment about bullying. But I like what you said about parents not trying to portray a perfect life. And it's not just parents, but it's just everyone. So I definitely learned that, throughout my years, especially after college myself, understanding that we're not perfect out here. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. Of course, you want to strive for perfection, but we're not perfect out here. Everybody makes mistakes out here. And just let people know that you don't have to live a perfect life, to be yourself. Absolutely. Just be yourself, and that's perfect enough. So before we go here, I want you to tell people about, I know you mentioned the Veterans Hotline, or Veterans Crisis Line, that people can go to. What are some of the other resources that are available, free resources and resources that cost, that people can have access to, whether it's a hotline, whether it's something over the internet, maybe it's a walk-in place people can walk into and talk to people. Absolutely. I want you to mention that on here, and then also mention where people can get in contact with you at. So your social media, your website, maybe your hotline as well.
Okay. Well, that's a really good question. I do want to, first of all, before I forget, that 1-800 number, 273-8255 number is for everybody. If you're a veteran, press 1. That number is the local crisis line. So if you call that number and you stay on the phone and you remain on the line, you will be automatically routed to the local crisis line in your area. So whether you're in Colorado, you're in Georgia, you're in Hawaii, wherever you're at, you're going to be routed to your local crisis line. They will be able to link you to resources. So if you don't have insurance or if you can't afford therapy, they can get you to places and community centers in your area that may have sliding scales to go all the way down to 0. So I want to point that out. Another resource is state hospitals. I know here in Atlanta is Grady. Grady has an outpatient mental health clinic that you can go to. And so they do provide outpatient counseling as well as psychiatry. It's a great program. I've worked there too for 5 years, working with people with serious and persistent mental illness. They do provide medication. Some people require medication. Some things are a chemical imbalance, so you may require medication. It's okay, because guess what? You'd rather take medication and not be able to see the signs and somebody say, wow, something's really wrong with this person, and you're really struggling. You may need some assistance. But counseling is a good way to go. I feel it's not instant, and then sometimes you may feel worse than you did leaving a session, but that's part of change. Change is a process, and you become through that process. Again, my name is Susan Gulley. I have a practice called the Daily Happy. I can be found on Psychology Today. You can find me. My last name is Gulley. Would be probably the best way to locate me. My cell is 714-585-9335, currently in the Atlanta, Georgia area. I want to say that it's important to reach out for help. The crisis line could give you immediate help if you need it, but it's not going to be that consistent processing that you need to process your thoughts and feelings. And so if you don't find a therapist that's a good fit, don't stop going to therapy. Find a therapist that works for you. Don't just say, oh, this ain't working, I don't need to go. The medication ain't working, so you stop taking it. Talk to your psychiatrist, get the help you need, stay consistent with the help, and I promise you, things can change. If you have a friend or family member, somebody that if you have somebody you can reach out for help, and you're not comfortable reaching the crisis line, let them know how you're feeling so you can get help. A lot of times we don't feel like people care, but they don't know they can't care. So I wish you all the best, everybody the best. If you're struggling, get help. There's help out there available for you. Carlos, I want to thank you so much for allowing me to come on to the podcast and help out. I really do. Thank you so much.
I want to add one more thing to that, or ask you one more question about therapy and the costs. I know it can be expensive at some therapists that you may go to. Should people look for therapy in their benefits package when they get a new job, or have you started seeing more people come to therapy with benefits from their job, helping to pay for that?
Yes, that's a good question. That's actually a really good option. Through your work, it's EAP, Employee Assistance Program. They usually offer like 6 free sessions, so you can't beat that, where you can go through them. And then if you want to continue with that therapist and you feel like they're a good fit, you can totally do that. Also, too, if let's say, for instance, if you're with Blue Cross Blue Shield, you can just call Blue Cross Blue Shield customer service line, and they can give you some referrals for therapists in your area. If you want a male, if you want a female, if you're dealing with PTSD, or you're dealing with low self-esteem, or you're dealing with anxiety, whatever you're dealing with, they will have a therapist that specializes in that area. So yeah, you can certainly go through your insurance company to get therapy as well. And of course, if you're a veteran, you can go through the VA. And so there's a lot of different options out there for you.
Awesome. So I definitely appreciate you taking time to come speak with us about this topic. Like I said, I definitely want to have you back because I feel like there's even more that we can talk about, because let's be honest, we missed a few years talking about mental health. Absolutely. And we can speak for a long time, especially in the Black community, about mental health, crisis, trauma, all of that, and then bullying as well. So I appreciate you coming out. She left you all her website. She left you all the crisis hotline. You all can reach out to me if you didn't catch that information, or you can go back and listen to the podcast. But as always, I like to leave my audience with something from Nipsey Hussle, because I loved everything Nipsey Hussle represented. I loved his music. And Nipsey told you the marathon does not stop. It always continues. So as always, whatever you're doing, elevate to the next level. Whatever you're doing, take it to the next level. For me, it's health. I'm trying to teach people about health. As always, I don't know everything about health. That's why I have special guests come on the show. And this is a way that we can take our health to the next level by understanding therapy, understanding trauma, understanding crisis, and just understanding how to talk to people around us. It can be our friends, family, just anyone around us. Get a feel for who they really are and look out for those triggers that may cause depression or something even more fatal. All right? So until next time, peace.